the way the match was really set. She was incredible. Colby Carino, he's a second generation wrestler. He's really good. You have a guy like Harlem Bravado who's just trying to keep his spot and really cement his spot in Evolve Wrestling and in the WWE. He's been there forever, for years. He was in Ring of Honor, Dragon Gate, Evolve. He's been there for a while. And then you have guys like Barrett Brown. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's a former NWA World's Junior Heavyweight Champion. So I was in there with the world champion as well, and he's a guy that really stood out at past WWN tryouts and seminars. And then you have John Silver, who I believe is one of the best wrestlers in the world that just for some reason hasn't totally broke out. Like he's done PWG, he's the CZW World Champion right now, but he just never had like that chance.
And he also has the hardest strikes out of any wrestler, I think, ever.
He kicked me really hard in the chest. So like I really enjoyed the match. The fact that that was my first ever match at my first ever WrestleMania weekend kind of made it mean even more to me. The fact that I got to sign the contract in the middle of the ring in front of everybody was also incredible. It kind of, I was telling other people, it still feels surreal to me. Like until I'm on that plane next week to Livonia, Michigan, it's just like it doesn't feel real, even though I know it is. As a matter of fact, the most recent Pro Wrestling Illustrated just came out, the online edition, and it comes to print in a few weeks. And there is a nice little write up, a couple quotes from me, as well as the picture of me getting handed the WWN contract. So that like just kind of really verifies like how real this is. Like I'm not dreaming anymore.
Yeah, I believe it said one to watch out for too. So I mean, I love I'm a big magazine guy too. So I think that's amazing, and I'm glad you brought up next weekend. Evolve 127 is May 10th in Michigan, and I know you're going to be on the card. Can we break some news? Do we have an opponent announced yet?
I would love to break some news, but I don't have any news to break. No, yeah, my matches are yet to be announced for either day. There's so much talent though that's also yet to be announced. Like on Saturday's show in Indianapolis, Kurt Stallion's match is yet to be announced. Ace Perry's match is yet to be announced. Leon Ruff's match is yet to be announced. Those are three guys I would love to get in the ring with, regardless it be a fatal four-way, a triple threat, a singles match. Kurt Stallion from last year is one of like my favorite opponents I got to get in the ring with. Also at an Evolve show. That was my Evolve debut, was in a four-way where Kurt Stallion ended up beating me. Maybe it's time for me to return the favor. I'm just really pumped for the weekend. And for me, yeah, I don't have a match announced yet. But more importantly, I think it's a matter of just getting the eyes on me that weekend. I'm very new to the Midwest region, so it's awesome that that gets to be my first official weekend. And as long as I walk out with a W in both of my matches, I think that'll show them more so that I'm ready for the bigger opportunities. Because this weekend's just weekend number one. I'm looking towards the WWN Live, championship. I'm looking towards the Evolve Championship. If I can find myself a partner, I'm looking at the tag team titles. I'm not just in there to, I guess, make a name for myself. I'm in there to, leave with some hardware.
And I'm glad you brought up, from the Midwest. And just in case you're not from the Midwest and you can't make it to the shows this weekend, Club WWN is awesome. It's got all the Evolve shows live streaming. Check them out on there. The WWN Live Super Show is on there. It's for such a good price. I mean, there's so much wrestling to be seen. And like you said, I mean, I was looking at the card earlier today, and like Leon Ruff, Kurt Stallion, those are some of the guys I feel like Evolve is such a rich history. I mean, their first ever match was Kyle O'Reilly versus Bobby Fish, and now look where we are in 2019. Look where those guys are. So Evolve is such a depth of talent that, I mean, even the guys from NXT are coming over and popping up. And you have Cassius Ohno this weekend, formerly known as Chris Hero. You've got Adam Cole. Who from NXT, after this weekend's victories, who from NXT that pops into Evolve would you like to make a stop on the Retribution tour?
I have two names, both for different reasons. Actually, no, I have three names, all for different reasons. Number one would be Dominik Dijakovic, for the sole reason that he's a guy that like I started when I switched over to the New England Wrestling Academy. He's one of the first guys I started training with when I was really early and I needed a place to stay before a show. He let me sleep at his house, and he still to this day is one of my best friends. So I'd love to be able to wrestle him now that he's in WWE. Number two would be, I wouldn't consider him an NXT guy, but he has thrown out there on social media that he wants to wrestle for Evolve, and that's Mike Kanellis. Reason being, he was probably like one of my first high profile matches on the indies when I was only 2 years in. And he helped me a lot when I first started training at Spike Dudley's wrestling school back in 2012 and 2013. He was like one of the main guys to really help me. And last but not least, this one specifically is because I think his character and my character would mesh so well. And I think this match just screams money. I'm pretty sure you could guess it. It would be myself versus Velveteen Dream.
Uh, that's the first person I thought of. I can just imagine the in-ring work. Don't get me wrong, but the promos, you guys talking to each other, that would be great. We're huge fans of Mike Kanellis here too, and it's funny, Dominic Dijakovic. We just had Josh Briggs on the show a couple weeks ago, and he also said the exact same thing you did. Everything about Dijakovic, such a great guy in the ring. I'm going to throw another name out there at you. I know you're very familiar with the intergender wrestling. How about Candice LeRae versus the retrosexual Anthony Greene?
Wow. I mean, to give her credit, she is probably like the first woman, like on the indies, that really made intergender wrestling famous. Her and Joey Ryan as a tag team really changed the game when it comes to intergender wrestling. If that opportunity ever came up, I would not say no. She's absolutely incredible. I would hate to even say that she's a great women's wrestler because I think it's fair to say she's just a great wrestler.
Agreed.
Um, yeah, no questions asked. If the opportunity ever came up to have an intergender match with a Candice LeRae, I in a heartbeat. Her or a Mia Yim as well. Like super talented women.
Do you think we're going to see that in regards to the intergender wrestling? I know there's this, there's the pro and there's both sides of it, and people are like, oh, it's not. There is a good meme online. It's like, oh, it's so not real, and then there's a picture of the Undertaker. It's like, really? Because I've met plenty of women that could kick anybody's ass. So I'm a huge fan of intergender wrestling. Like you mentioned, Mia Yim, Candice LeRae, Britt Baker, Shayna Baszler, Kimberly. I mean, these girls are all just phenomenal athletes, and I think that's one of the biggest credits to Beyond Wrestling. Beyond Wrestling has built up such, a name for themselves with their intergender wrestling and their women's wrestling, including the WWR. I mean, is that something we're going to see more going forward? What do you think?
Definitely never say never, especially like we just talked about my match where I won the contract. Shotzi Blackheart was in the match. Very different. And then that same show, Brandy Lauren teamed with Austin Theory against Darby Allin and Priscilla Kelly in an intergender tag match. So I think a lot of promotions that were maybe against it are maybe like teasing the idea a little more, like at least getting their feet wet with the idea of intergender wrestling. There are three girls I can name right now on the independents that I would love to wrestle before they get picked up by the WWE, and that's Chris Statlander, Kylie Ray, and Tessa Blanchard. Those I think like I said, those are not three great women's wrestlers. Those are three great pro wrestlers.
Absolutely. Great athletes, great wrestlers. And Tessa Blanchard had one of my favorite matches of WrestleMania weekend against Ricky Shane Page at Pancakes and Pile Drivers.
Incredible match.
Yeah, I mean, and just I completely agree with you. So if any promoters are out there listening and you're looking to, book some matches before these girls get swooped up, or Anthony Greene versus Tessa Blanchard has money written all over it. Now, listen, before we let you go, I have to ask you the question that we ask every single person that has ever done this podcast, and I am in the minority here. Joe and I, we are split down the middle. I am Team Bret Hart. Joe is Team Shawn Michaels. One of them has got to go all time. Who do you side with, Bret or Shawn?
So, just based on you being the minority, I know you're a Bret Hart fan. So Shawn
That's
Michaels,
true.
Shawn Michaels is the answer. Shawn Michaels forever.
It's probably like 35 to 2 or 3. All I can remember is me, Gary Michael Capetta, and Solo Darling are the only people that were on Team Bret Hart. You know what?
That's
That's good company.
that's not knocking Bret Hart. That's like comparing like a cheeseburger to a filet mignon. Like
Whoa, that's a stiff statement. I mean, I think if you look at it, it's what you value more. I just happen to think Bret Hart is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. But that's also the kid in me. What can I say?
Shawn Michaels will always be the showstopper and Mr. WrestleMania.
Tomato, tomato. That's all right. Listen, before we let you go, I also want to give you credit on possibly my favorite T-shirt in the business right now, which is your Beavis and Butthead retrosexual AG T-shirt over on Pro Wrestling Tees. As huge fans of Beavis and Butthead that we are, that shirt is amazing. And everybody listening to this podcast right now should go to ProWrestlingTees.com and type in Anthony Greene and buy that shirt immediately.
Fun fact, that shirt is only available. That shirt and the Pac-Man shirt are only available on Pro Wrestling Tees. I've never printed them. So if you have one or want one, you can only get it on ProWrestlingTees.com/RetroAG.
Be sure to go to Pro Wrestling Tees and be sure to follow Retro AG on Twitter and Instagram, and also at Retro Collect Stuff over on Instagram to see all of the cool stuff that you have on there. And if you have, listen, we need you to get a couple of wins this weekend. So when you show up at Evolve 129 in our backyard at La Boom in Queens, where we're going to be, we'll see you getting a title shot. Can we put that out there in the universe?
I mean, yeah, the goal is to not lose. So after I win next weekend in the Midwest, it'll actually be my first wins in the Midwest. I've yet to win a match ever in the Midwest, so I'll have 2 of them. So that'll help a lot. Also, my Michigan wrestling debut, if I didn't mention that already. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I plan on winning, and then maybe La Boom, whether that be a shot at Austin Theory's title, whether that be JD Drake's title, or if I can find myself a partner. Me and Josh Briggs are best friends. Maybe him and I will team up and take on Joe Gacy and Eddie Kingston.
Sign me up for any of those matches. And best of luck this weekend, Beyond Wrestling, Lethal Lottery, Retrosexual Anthony Greene versus Big Stevie Cool, Stevie Richards, and the next weekend, Evolve 127, 128. You are a busy man, my friend. We thank you for taking time out of your day to stop by the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast.
Oh, no, absolutely. Also, I retract my statement on calling Bret Hart a cheeseburger.
I mean, I love cheeseburgers, but by comparison to a filet mignon, it was a little stiff.
Yeah, he's more like a T-bone.
Bret Hart is now a T-bone. I want everybody to quote that from the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. Be sure to tune in again next week, and don't forget, at Retro AG, at All Night Long WP, and we're tapping out.